5, 4. Wow, I didn't even have to get to 3. Welcome, Glenmont 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. We are here today for a wonderful presentation by Mr. John Robinson. And Mr. John Robinson is special to Glenmont because his son actually graduated from Glenmont and is now in 7th grade. I don't know if any of you remember Owen. Maybe the older kids do. So we are very happy to have him here today. Unfortunately, his co-presenter has a fever and was not able to come today. But Mr. Robinson has so much to share with us. I know you're going to be excellent Glenmont leaders. Could everybody sit down flat? And you're going to be respectful of our speaker and keep your eyes up here and be quiet. Thank you so much. Let's give a round welcome to Mr. Robinson.
Good morning. Come on, we can do it a little louder than that. Good morning. It's great to be here. I have spent the better part of the last 14 years dropping kids off at this school. So it's different not to have kids to drop off here, but it's nice to be back. I want to share with you some thoughts and some ideas, and I brought a nice handy tool to show you as well. So who knows what this is? Does anybody know what this is? In the back, go ahead. Yep. It's my bike. It's exactly right. How many of you ride a bike? Wow, a lot of hands go up. Do you remember the first time that you rode your bike? Yeah. Can I ask a question? Was it an older brother or sister pushing you along? Yeah. No? Somebody laughed. Did they knock you over? No? Yes. Was it a parent running behind you hoping you take off? Yeah. I hear that a little bit more than older brothers and sisters. Sometimes I hear that you just decide to do it on your own and you take your training wheels off and you go on your own. Well, when I was your age, I couldn't ride a bicycle. And it was one of the things that I always wanted to do. Now, I've had a great, I'm 46 years old, great long life, happy as an adult, start and own and run my own business, graduated college, and education is very important. But one of the things in the back of my mind that always bothered me was that I never had the opportunity to do what all of you say you do, which is ride a bicycle. And I can remember the times that I watched my wife, Andrea, teach our 3 children to ride their bike, and I was sitting behind and realizing I'd never have that chance. And then in 2012, so almost 4 years ago, I had the opportunity to go to the Olympics for people with disabilities in London. And I got to watch other people with disabilities, like myself, play sports against each other. Some play wheelchair basketball. There's a game called wheelchair rugby, which is like football. You actually run into each other with your wheelchair and try to steal the ball, which is really fun. It's a lot of fun to get knocked over in a wheelchair. And I also saw people ride this, and I'd never seen this before. And like one of my friends here in the front row said, it looks like a preschool bike. It does. It's the same principle. It's on 3 wheels instead of 2. And I saw people use this in London. And I thought, wow, that's great. I really wish I had had that when I was your age. And so I came back from London and had the chance to go to a local organization that teaches people with disabilities to ski, people that look like me to ski. And there in the back of the shed was a 3-wheel hand cycle, just like this. And when I started to get on the hand cycle and I started to pedal for the first time in my life, I realized I was missing something. You guys know that feeling of when you're pedaling your bike, you feel free, you feel like you're flying, you're having a great time. Well, that felt like that for me for the first time. And so I got on the hand cycle and I rode it around the block and I realized this was great. And then I brought it home. And when I started to ride it in our neighborhood, 2 of my 3 children were riding with me on either side of me, and they're teaching me how to ride a bike. Now, parents are supposed to teach kids to ride a bike, but it was my kids teaching me how to ride a bike. And I realized this is something that I never want to stop doing. And so I brought it to show you because I want you to be able to take a look at it and see it. And I want you to understand that sometimes in our life, things look a little bit different. That bike looks a little bit different than your bike does, doesn't it? I look a little bit different than you do or than your parents do, don't I? Okay? Sometimes we run into people around the community or even in school or in the grocery store, and they might look a little bit different, don't they? But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how we look. What matters is who we are on the inside. How we love and share and talk with our friends and our parents. The most important thing that you are is what's in your heart and what's in your head. For the longest time, when I was your age, I couldn't look at myself in the mirror. I was uncomfortable with what I looked like. I looked different. I walk funny. And I'd see my friends and I'd say, I want to look like them. But you know what? My friends still love me. Today, my family still loves me. My friends today still love me. And that's the most important thing in our life, is understanding who you are and being proud of who you are, and understanding that the people that you deal with, your friends and your other classmates, maybe they look different, maybe they smile differently, maybe their hair's different, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay. So I do look a little bit different, don't I? So I'm going to give you some technical terms. I am an amputee. I am a quadruple, which means 4. Congenital, which means at birth, amputee. So I was born 46 years ago without the extension of my arms and my legs. Okay? So I was born like this. My arms end at where your elbows are. All right? So put your elbows together for me for a moment. That would be what it's like to use a fork, or to use your pencil in class, or to button your button on your jeans. My arms end at where your elbow... I get some great face expressions out there. You guys are doing this, and you're doing this. It is different, right? But it's okay. I want to tell you why it's okay. I am truly blessed to have this body. And I know what it's like to have hands, even though I've never had hands. Because in the ends of my arms, I am moving the muscles and the nerves that would have turned into fingers and hands. So I'm moving what would have turned into hands. And so in my mind, I know what it's like to have had them, but I don't. So in my mind, I know what it's like to point or make a fist. I understand what it's like to have hands, and I'm moving the muscles to do it. I don't need them to understand. My legs are different altogether. They're the lower part of your leg. So I have a foot facing forward. Thank goodness. I've seen quadruple amputees born with their feet facing backwards. Yeah. And that usually means that then they're amputated at birth. They're surgically removed at birth. So I'm really lucky that my feet are facing forward. I can put on shoes, I can walk, lower leg, but no knee and no upper part. And if you see a skeleton in your classroom, or you see a picture of a skeleton, you know that your hip fits, ball and joint fits really snugly together. Mine does not. There's about a 2-inch gap from where my bone is in my leg area, where it should be. But there's nothing holding my legs together to the rest of my body except muscle. But you know what? I'm lucky to be here. I'm happy to be here. Even though I look completely different, I'm all right with that. And it's taken a lifetime of understanding that it doesn't matter what I look like. It matters who I am and who you are. Right? That's the most important thing. Now, I told you already that I'm married. One of the first things that people wonder is, did I find somebody to share my life with? And yes, Andrea and I have been married for almost 25 years, and we're proud of that. And I share that with you because that's something that's very important. I found somebody to share my life with, and we have 3 kids. Hayden is 25. He fights forest fires out in the West, so he's out fighting forest fires, and he's doing a great job. Ariel is a freshman in college, and she started here in kindergarten all those years ago. And Owen is now in 7th grade. And all 3 kids have all 10 fingers and 10 toes and are able-bodied, and they're just fine. And so the neat thing was, when we had the kids, the first thing I looked for was 10 fingers and 10 toes. Because we all get used to looking for what's normal. What's normal in life. But what is normal? The point is that we all are normal. Maybe some of us wear glasses. Maybe some of us don't wear the same clothes as others. But you know what? Even if we're 3 foot 9 inches tall with no arms and no legs, it doesn't matter what we look like. It matters who we are, and it matters if we say hello to our friends and we smile and we be good people in our community. That's what matters. That's what matters. And at the same time, if you get picked on because you look different or you act different, know in your heart that you are great. So I spoke to the 6th, 7th, and 8th graders at the middle school last year, and you know their first question was, did I get bullied? Did I get picked on as a kid when I was your age? Anybody want to answer what my answer would be? Yes. I did. I got picked on. But you know who picked on me? Were people that didn't know me. Do you think I got picked on by my friends? No. And so one of the greatest lessons in life is, if you are one of the people being picked on, or if you feel like you're going to pick on somebody, stop a minute and get to know the other person. Because at the end of the day, once you get to know somebody on a one-on-one basis, you can find some common ground. You and me and all of you, we can find some common ground. If we meet each other, we all come from Glenmont, right? You all can find some common ground. And the other thing is, if you get picked on, don't be afraid to let somebody know. Because one of the hardest things to do is to let somebody know if somebody's picking on you, right? So I want to make sure that you guys are comfortable with who you are, that you can say something. Okay, so I told you I'm a congenital amputee, and I look funny, and I walk funny, and I shuffle back and forth, and I told you that I ride this hand cycle, and did I tell you that I climbed a mountain? No, I did. I climbed a mountain. My wife and my kids have all been big mountain climbers. Owen, who's in 7th grade right now, has climbed all of the 46 mountains in the Adirondacks over 4,000 feet at 12 years old. When you're in our family, you hike. And you know what? I've gotten away with not hiking for years. I sit at home. But you know what my wife made me do? She made me hike up a mountain. And you know what? It takes Owen 45 minutes to get up to the top of the mountain. It took me 3 hours to get up to the top of the mountain. But you know what? I got there. And sometimes things are very hard. Sometimes it seems like we're climbing a mountain. But we're not. We can do it if we put our mind to it. One of the other things that happened was how many of you are in 4th grade? Who's in 4th grade? You're going to study the Erie Canal this year, I believe, or you have, or you're going to? One or the other? Have you studied it yet? No. So I'm going to give you a little preview. Do you know what that map is right there? It's the Erie Canal. You're going to study this. You rode the Erie Canal? How far? I don't know. Did you come all the way to Albany? Your grandmother lives in Buffalo? You rode it on a bike? Excellent. Really? What's your name? Who? Jack, come on up here, Jack. Jack, you sit right there. Although you got a Red Sox shirt on, I'll let that go. Okay, so I told you my wife is a hiker, my kids are active, and I got a pass and used to get to sit at home and they get to go ride there, they get to do whatever they want. Well, the day that, you having fun on the bike? You're kind of? You want to be the center of attention? You're fine. All right, so stick right there. I got something for you to do. So the day that I learned to ride the bike, when Owen and Ariel are teaching me to ride the bike, I get off of the bike and my wife Andrea says, John, I've always wanted to take a bike trip with you. And I'm thinking, great, I'd love to take a bike trip. Maybe we'll go down by the river and we'll do maybe 1 mile or 2 miles. And she says, no, John, I've always wanted to take a bike trip with the family and I want to do the Erie Canal. And I don't remember 4th grade because it was that too long ago. I said, well, how far is that? She goes, don't worry, it's only from Buffalo to Albany. It's 350 miles. Now, I just did 1 mile, and now she's got me doing 350 miles. Right? And I said, I can't do that, Andrea. There's no way I can do that. And she says, yes, you can. And so she trained me for 1 mile became 2 miles. 2 miles became 4 miles. 4 miles became 8 miles. And before I knew it, we had it mapped out that we were going to do the 17 days along the Erie Canal in 2013. And our first day was going to be 22 miles. And we ended up 22 miles on the Erie Canal path in 2013 from Tonawanda, New York to Lockport, New York. And at the end of the first day and 22 miles, we had 16 days to go. And it was hot and sticky and sweaty. And day 2 was even hotter. And this is what the Erie Canal path looks like in western New York. And now we have 27 miles. And it's 95 degrees. And I've got to ride this bike 27 miles on stone dust. And at the end of the 27 miles, we got to Albion, New York, and there on the front porch of their local town hall in the very small town were 350 people with disabilities cheering us on. 350 people with disabilities cheering us on. And you know what they said to me? They said, I was their hero. And they are my hero. And so we promised that day that we would go on no matter how far we went. And we did. We finished that first year along the Erie Canal. Now, the Erie Canal is mostly level. It's level from Buffalo to Albany for the most part. There are not many big hills. And here we are in our first year, and you see me on the left and my friend Doug Hamlin. Doug uses a wheelchair to get around. Doug broke his neck almost 30 years ago. And so he uses a wheelchair. So he had a bike that first year that looked a lot like mine. The problem, what we didn't know at the time, was the bikes that we had in the first year were not meant to race. And they would have broken down within the first day or two, but we didn't know it. Nobody told us. And so we changed our bikes in the second year, and you can see that this bike is the one that I have now. And so we got smarter, and we learned the mistake that we had in the first year, and we got better equipment. And there we are in year 2, when we left in 2014, and here we are when we left this year. So we've done this trip from Buffalo to Albany, all 350 miles, 3 years in a row. And we do it for one reason. We do it because in our community, there are people with disabilities. In our community, there are people that are forgotten. I have a disability. You know I have a disability the way you see me. But there are other people with disabilities, and we forget those people in the community. And so that's why we do this bike trip, to remember that. Your brother has a disability? Do you know what his disability is? Autism? Jack, you can sit down. I didn't mean to pick on you. Go ahead. You're good. Oh, you want to see that? I will in a minute. You want to try it yourself? No? So that leads to a good question. You asked, your brother has a disability. I'm sorry, go ahead. Your cousin has autism? So I was going to ask you that question. Do you know how many different disabilities there are? There's not really a number. Go ahead. There's 1,000. There are probably more. Infinity. Disability means one thing. The definition of disability is it dramatically impacts one aspect of your life. So somebody with autism, somebody without arms and legs or hands or feet, somebody that uses a wheelchair like Mr. Hamlin does. It could mean learning disabilities. It could mean something like diabetes, where you've got to watch what you eat. Disability can be a lot of different things, but it dramatically impacts one aspect of your life. And what we do on our bike trip, and what we do every day of the year, is try to help people with all disabilities find jobs and be accepted by their friends and neighbors. And that's what we do. And that's a really important thing to learn, because you're going to run into people with disabilities every day of your life from now forward, and we have to remember that we can't ignore that, because that's probably us, or our friends, or our brothers and sisters.
I've run into a person with disabilities just like you.
Really?
At the supermarket.
At the supermarket? Was it me in a costume? No?
No,
Did-
it was someone else.
So did you say hello?
Yeah, I said hello.
He has a mustache. Did you said hello? Excellent. Should we stare at somebody with disabilities? No. No? But is it okay to ask a question?
Yes.
Yeah, it is okay to ask a question. It's okay to ask a question, but remember one thing. Ask it with love and kindness. Don't pick on somebody. But it's absolutely okay. Like, any question you might want to ask me. In the back, go ahead. Your grandmother has what? A disability?
My grandmother has disabilities, so she needs to have a wheelchair so she can get around.
Yeah, your grandmother needs a wheelchair to get around. You know what? 1 out of 6 people in this country, 1 out of 6. So if you count 6 people down a row, and you took the whole country, 1 out of 6 has a disability or will have. So disability is a big category of people. Back there, go ahead, dude. Way back. Oop.
Run, red, sunning. Run, red, sunning. Run, red, sunning.
We'll talk about
We'll
that
talk later. We'll talk one-on-one. Go ahead, right here. You forgot? No, you couldn't forget.
How do you have feet if your legs are like short?
How do I have feet if my legs are short?
Yeah.
It's the lower part of your leg. So look at your leg for a minute. So it's my leg is that part. Is that right from there down. But it stopped at the knee, and then it just appeared up there. Okay, stay quiet. Stay quiet.
Could you play sports?
Could I play sports? Well, that's a great question. So one of the reasons why I ride the hand cycle now is because it's one way for me to play sports and to stay active. But when I was your age, I was doing everything that you were doing. I was playing kickball. I was playing Little League baseball. I was playing football in the backyard. I was doing everything that you were doing. But the problem is, when I got older, and you guys all got bigger with me, bigger than I did, then I didn't get bigger. So I couldn't do that. But you know what my favorite thing to do as a kid? It was to play sports. Now, one of the things that happened was I was told that I couldn't play Little League Baseball anymore. Little League Baseball told my parents I couldn't play anymore. And so the best thing my dad did was he bought some golf clubs. And so the moment that I was told I couldn't play Little League Baseball, I started to play golf. And so now as an adult, I play golf, I throw the Frisbee with my kids, but I also use the bike as my way to play sports. So it's really important. You guys are great.
Once I was in Boston with my family visiting my cousin Sarah, and while we were near the ocean, I saw a person who was in a wheelchair, and that he had a sign that said he was from the Navy, and he lost both of his legs, and he was collecting tips, and my brother went to him and he gave him one.
Yeah. You know what? There's a lot of veterans, a lot of military people that come back from service for our country. They come back with a disability. So we try to help them find jobs and find education because it's really important. Yeah. Everybody's hand is up. This is great. Go ahead. I'll repeat it if you don't want me to. I'll repeat it. Right here.
Once when I was at a parade, I saw someone with a blue bike just like yours with the same problem.
Yeah, the bike. You know what? I try to remember to do the Memorial Day parade here every year. But that's good. You're going to see more of these bikes because one of the things is you're going to see more of people with disabilities. See, it's very important that for years and years and years, if you go back 50 years, if you go back, you know, a few years before I was born, I would not have come to school with you. I would have gone to a different school. You know, but then in time, we start to accept people with disabilities in the community. So you're going to see more and more bikes as we get older and we get used to seeing people in the community. That becomes really important. Who hasn't asked a question? Did you remember your question? Okay.
Well, it's not really a question, but my cousin Paul, he went to a fundraiser at his school the other day for this girl. There's only like 3 people in the world that have that disease, and she's one of them, where like the muscles turn to bone.
Yeah.
And it's
There's so many. See, the thing is, one of the things I asked you was how many disabilities are there? There are many, many different disabilities. And it all is, you can put your hands down for a minute. It all is different. Just because I'm an amputee doesn't mean I'm the same amputee as the soldier in the wheelchair. It doesn't mean I'm the same amputee as somebody that's lost one hand. But you know what? What's the same with all of us is how we feel about ourselves, how we help each other find our education and find our job, and how we move forward in life. That is what's important. So when I ask you if you ever thought I was bullied or picked on, we all know that people get picked on in life. But it's how we help one another to overcome that and to work with that. That's what makes us stronger. And so there are different disabilities, but the commonality, the similarity is how we help each other. So I may look different than Mr. Hamlin, who's in his wheelchair, although he's not in his wheelchair there. You know what? It's how we help each other get all of the rest of us to understand it's okay. Because if you remember one thing from what I said today, I am lucky to look this way. I am lucky to look this way, and I'm honored and proud to share that with groups of people like you. You are lucky with who you are. no matter how different you are from somebody else. And that's really important. So, I'm going to answer your questions again in a minute, but I want to take you through some more of these pictures, because there's another part of the Erie Canal path. And here's what's funny about that, is they don't mow it, and when your bike, look how far my bike is off the ground, right? And if they don't mow the lawn, you can't get through it. So it slows you down. But you do have some pretty pictures once in a while. There's some bridges that you get to look down about 40 feet on rocks. You hope you don't fall and run off the bridge, but you do get to see it. And you also get to share some great time with your family. These are two really important people on our bike trip. On the right is my wife, Andrea, and I'm forgetting her name. On my wife, what's her name? Andrea, and on the left is Mrs. Hamlin, Pam. Pam was a school teacher, a fourth grade school teacher for nearly 30 years in Voorheesville. And what was great was when we do this bike trip for the past 3 years, you know who has the most fun? Is Mrs. Hamlin and Mrs. Robinson. They love it. They have a great time, and they get to share the experience with us. But it isn't about us. It's about the people that we meet along the way. These are two separate groups of people with disabilities in different communities in New York State. If you go to any small town in New York State, the biggest employer is going to be the employer that deals with people with disabilities. There's a lot of us out there, we just don't see it. And so we want to recognize that. There's another cool thing about the Erie Canal trip, is it's not always sunny out. Sometimes it rains. You know what's bad when your bike is an inch off the ground and you bike through puddles? Yeah, you know what you're doing to your face when your face is 1 inch from the front tire? What are you doing with your face? What's happening when there's mud on the ground? Yeah, mud on your face. And what happens also, not only is there mud on the Erie Canal, and not only is there water, and not only is there stone dust, but there's also geese. And you know what geese do? Oh yeah. And your face is 3 inches from the front tire, and you're riding through goose poop. Guess what you're eating? I love it, love it. Bring it on. So, why do we do this? In 2013, we got to meet a gold medal winner. His name is Ryan Chalmers. He won a gold medal in London for wheelchair racing. He's a good young man. And we were invited to his event. And I was happy to go to his event in Rochester while we were on our bike trip. Ryan Chalmers is a world-class athlete. And he has a lot of people that he has looking up to him. And here are two of the people that look up to him. You see, we're all lucky in this world. I told you I'm lucky and blessed to be who I am. These two young boys are no different than you are. They are going to meet right here in this photo their hero. But it's not Peyton Manning or Tom Brady or Tiger Woods or LeBron James. Their athletic hero is Ryan Chalmers. And so they're happy to meet him, and they put face paint on, and they tricked out their wheels. They've got lights on the back of their wheelchairs, and they're really excited. The reason we do this bike trip, the reason why we raise awareness is because there are people with disabilities everywhere. And we want everybody to remember it. Life is full of obstacles. Sometimes on the bike path there's trees that come down. And you have to get off your bike and climb over the tree. Or if you're Mr. Hamlin and you can't walk, you have to get off your bike and crawl through the tree. Sometimes in life there's obstacles. Sometimes there's math tests that you have to take. Sometimes there's homework that you have to do. Sometimes you have to clean your room. Oh, I know. Oh. But you know what? If you think it's hard, Imagine being Mr. Hamlin trying to crawl through that tree without being able to use his legs. You know what? There's always something harder. And so we can get through it. And the best part about life, and the reason why I am blessed and happy, it's the friends that you have in life. If you're ever having a bad day, if you ever are being picked on, I want you to do one thing. I want you to go to who loves you best. Go to your best friend and just hang out and be there. Because you, in my case, you might look a little bit different, but you find friends along the way and you can share experiences with. And even if you're your age and your parent is making you bicycle from Buffalo to Albany and you want to do nothing but play Minecraft, you can even find 5 minutes in the day to talk to a friend with your feet in the Erie Canal. So, parenting mistake. I promised Owen we would stop at every ice cream shop along the Erie Canal. First of all, do you think Owen ever forgot it? No. Secondly, Mr. Hamlin and I are the two people with disabilities in the world that can bike 350 miles and gain 10 pounds. I think it's because of this, but I'm not sure. Remember, two things. Sometimes there's trees in your way. Sometimes there's tests that you have to take. But you can do it. And remember that if you get picked on, if somebody's giving you a hard time, if you're having a bad day, you're lucky to be who you are, and speak to the friends that you have in your life. Please do those two things. I've got time for a few more questions. Go ahead. You've been good. You've been quiet. No, right here. Go ahead. Yeah, you. You've seen me getting vegetables? Good. Good that I'm getting vegetables. That's a good thing. Everybody eat your vegetables.
How did you know your wife, that you would be the right one for her?
That I would be the right one for her? That's a great question. You know what's funny? I knew that my wife, Andrea, we were going to be right for each other, let's put it that way, because we were good friends. If you have somebody you can talk to, you know that that's a good thing in life. Go ahead, dude. Stand up. Speak. You hike the Appalachian Trail? That's tough. How far have you gone? Do you know? How far? On the Appalachian Trail? That's fantastic. Good for you. You know what? They're going to do it next year. Good for you. That's really impressive. Go ahead. Yep. Can people like me? Well, first of all, there's so few people like me that the answer to that is probably no. And when I was your age, so the question was, could people like me be tall? You can put your hands down for a minute. The truth of the matter is there's so few people like me with the way my arms are and legs are that I can't be much taller than I am. But when I was your age, I wore artificial arms and legs. And so I was your height when I was your age because I had prosthetics. So every day I went to the principal's office and the principal helped me get dressed every day and wear artificial arms and legs. So I would do school wearing stilts, pretty much. And then I would, at the end of the day before I got on the bus, went back to the principal's office, got undressed to the way I am now, and got on the bus and went home. And prosthetics or artificial arms and legs are good for some people, but I was better the way I am. That's a really, really good question. Thank you very much for asking that. Go ahead, dude. How can I get upstairs? You know what? One stair at a time. Which is a bad answer for you, I'm sorry. But one leg, I'll lift one leg and then climb up the stair, and one leg, climb up the stair. Without knees, it is different, definitely. Go ahead in the back, dude. Speak. You. She had a mechanical leg. It's not. She's not a cyborg. It's a prosthetic. It's funny. It's a prosthetic limb. It's a prosthetic limb, and it's a mechanical limb that helps if you're missing one limb. And if I were missing one leg or one arm, I would have a prosthetic arm or leg. But because I'm symmetrical the way I am, I'm all right this way. Go ahead. My favorite subject in school was math, definitely. Loved math. What do you mean, aw?
It's awesome.
No. Go ahead. You, right there. Hold on, hold on. Yep. Do they get really sweaty? The blue hand things on my bike? Yeah. The blue hand things on my bike, they do get really sweaty. They're custom built for me, and what they do is they put a cast on my arm, and then they mold the cast twice, once with soft plastic and once with hard plastic, and then it's attached right to the bike. And so as I'm biking, I don't have to think about grabbing anything anymore. But as I go, even just coming a little bit from my house today, they do get sweaty. And so sometimes when I'm coasting, I'll put some air in there. But you know what? It's really a great thing for me because I could not grip the bike handles without it. Okay? How are we doing on time? One more question, right here in the blue stars. It's okay. You do? You know, there are people with disabilities everywhere. Again, remember that they're people. You really have a question? You really have a question? All right, one more.
What, did it take practice to pick up stuff with your elbows?
Yeah, it did. It took a lot of practice. But you know what? I've had a lot of practice, and I've learned how to do it, from fork to toothbrush to car keys to cell phone. I've had a lot of practice in doing it, and I'm happy to do it. Guys, thank you very much. I really appreciate you've been a good audience. And remember that be a good friend, that there's obstacles in your way once in a while, and I can't thank you enough for listening. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Robinson. It was
You're very
wonderful to
welcome.
have you here at Glenmont School again.
Thank you.
Okay, could I please have Mrs. Barrowman's class stand up and you can head on out, and we'll have Miss Mihawk's class, and over here could we have Mrs. Falco? You can go that way. Thank you. We'll continue in
Bye,
the
Mrs.
same
Falco.
pattern, so Miss Bennett and then
I will.